Good evening. Good evening. This is Attorney Don Dennis. We had some technical difficulties. However, we are here. I hope that you are not missing out because of the technical difficulties. Nevertheless, we're here, and tonight we're talking about ways that you can lose your case because of things that you mistakenly don't know that you shouldn't do in court. And also, we're going to talk about strategies in terms of how to win your case, how to adequately prepare for trial. So, before any further ado, I am Attorney Don Dennis with the Law Office of Don Dennis. I am a former engineer and a current attorney, and I use these years of experience to help clients prepare for the best possible business transactions that they're involved in. The goal of this channel is to help you in all of your business transactions preserve your money, preserve your profits, and protect yourself in case things don't go as planned. If you think about it, when you have any type of business deal, it only takes seconds for you to cut the check, for you to do a wire transfer, for you to issue funds regarding any type of deal you're involved in. However, it can take years for you to get that money back. And in order to best protect yourself, we're going to talk about what you need to take into account. As always on this channel, when you see me, I am going to make sure I'm telling you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And that's what you can expect to hear. I see we have Corey looking forward to some knowledge. And yes, we're going to be providing that on this evening. My goal tonight is to provide you information that is as clear as water, clear as the clear blue sky. So whether your daily work involves you wearing a blue collar, a white collar, or no collar, I'm not here to talk in legalese, but I'm here to give you that straightforward information that you can use immediately. Now, if you haven't already, please hit the like button, the subscribe button, and the notification button so that you can always be notified whenever I go live and whenever we have information to share. Now, it's easy to say as soon if someone has wronged me, someone has got over on my business, and I'm going to court, I'm going to file a lawsuit, and as soon all I need to do is get before the judge, tell them what happened, and they're going to see it my way. Here's the issue. The issue is the way we think by ourselves at home when we text people about what we're going to do and what happens when you actually show up in court can often be two different things. Years ago, I remember in high school, I was in a drama class and we were preparing for a Raisin in the Sun play. And I don't remember my role in that play, but I went to rehearsals, I went to practice, I prepared. However, I showed up on the night of the play. I looked out into the audience looked at me, we made eye contact, and all of my lines went out the window. And things like that happen. We are all subject to possibilities of stage fright or other things based on all the emotions running through our head, based on all the information we want to get out, and things happen. I've seen it happen with clients. I've seen it happen with attorneys. So no one is above these type of things happening. And because of that, we're going to talk about that and other things that can affect the outcome of your case. Because you have to remember, your case, if you're my client, I understand your position. And we understand each other. And your friends and family, they understand you. But when you go to court, the judge doesn't know you. The jury doesn't know you, or they're not supposed to know you. So you have to convince and persuade people that don't know you, probably don't want to be there because they'd rather be at home, as to why you're right and why you have evidence to prove that you're right. So it's a lot that's involved in this. Nevertheless, let's talk about some of the things that are involved briefly talk about some of the things that are involved before you get to your day in court, before you get to your trial. First of all, you're going to expend a lot of time, money, and emotion. Why do I say time? You have a problem. You go down on Friday, you said, you know what? I'm headed downtown to the courthouse. I'm filing my lawsuit. And, you check your calendar when you get up at the table and you say, you know what? Oh, okay, let me look. I have some availability in June and I can block off a few weeks. So you tell the clerk, hey, you know what? Please go ahead and put in there, we'll be ready for trial in a few weeks. And, that's a good time for me. I can block off a week or two and go through this. Well, you're going to be in the middle of a surprise party. The clerk's going to go through the system, just listen to you, and then pull up the court docket, pull up the court calendar, find a judge that's available and say, surprise, your trial will be in 2 years. And they will set a calendar date for your trial at a year and a half to 2 years, if not more, in advance. And that's how it goes because the court calendars are stacked. In addition, courts are behind because of COVID. The courts were closed, cases got pushed back. So your case, most likely a brand new case, is at the end of the line. So what does that mean for you? That means for your business, you have to continue dealing with whatever problems you had, find a way around it temporarily. If you've lost money, find reserve money to use to make the business continue to stay profitable while you're waiting to go to court. Also, it's going to cost you because in the meantime, you're going to have to be gathering and spending your time getting together your evidence to exchange it with the other side. So you're going to be going through all your files, going through your text messages, going through your emails and videos, trying to put it all together in a neat matter to turn it over. And then at the same time, going through the evidence that they turn over to you. More of your time that you're not spending working and operating your business, but devoted to this case. In addition, it's going to cost you in terms of money. Attorneys that are working on your behalf have to be paid for their time to prosecute your case. In addition, you're going to have fees you're racking up from court costs because filing the paperwork is not free. And lastly, it's going to cost you, most importantly, in terms of emotions. Why is it going to cost you in terms of your emotions? Well, if Michael, for example, is a business owner and Michael has a problem with Marcus and he's suing Marcus because Marcus didn't deliver the products, Marcus is breaking the contract, or even Marcus took the money and has defrauded him and never intended to deliver those products or services that were contracted for. Well, what are you going to do? You're going to court and you want to show the jury up on the Elmo, on the big screen in front of the court. Look at the contract. Look at how he broke it. Here's pictures of how it's hurt my business. Here's other evidence. And I have other information to show about how he's hurt other people and how he's a horrible person to do business with. Well, no one and most reasonable people, if they're going to put up a defense to defend themselves, are going to sit there and want to look bad. So what they're going to do is dig up all types of evidence against you to make you look bad as well. They're going to try to show you in a worst possible light, show that actually they are the person that is the good person and you're the bad person. No one wants to look bad in the middle of court, especially in court records. If it's going to be documented, they're going to have transcripts and all these bad things are being said. They want to have a way to defend themselves. No one wants to sit there and not be defended. So any information they can find on you online, on your Facebook accounts, on your Instagram accounts, any old Twitter posts that might relate to the case at hand, that might disparage your character or your person, that's going to come out. And they're going to use it to ask you questions about it and things of that nature. So once you open this up, you have to have thickened skin and realize this could be a little emotional. So tonight we're going to talk about ways to win and ways to lose your case in relation to some of the things that came out in the Blac Chyna case. As many people know, she sued the Kardashians and made all types of allegations. If you look at it, this lawsuit was filed back in 2017. So it took years to get to court. As I was saying, in the meantime, what are you going to do with respect to your business if you can't get your justice immediately? However, there's two courts. There's the court of law and there's the court of public opinion. As most people know, once she filed that lawsuit, the media was all over it. Everyone was talking about it immediately. Everyone had their opinion, whether it was TMZ, whether it was E! News, whether it was NBC, whether it was the newspapers, whether it was social media blogs or YouTube channels. Everyone was talking about it, giving their opinion. and the court of public opinion was full at work. And so what happens is when you have a jury pool of people that are going to sit on a case, oftentimes their mind is being made up, or they're forming opinions and ideas about the people involved in the case. Do I like this person? Don't I like this person? I saw this person had on this outfit online. They probably are someone that's a little shady. This person always seems to be dressed professional. They probably are someone that I can believe. So these are things that people take into account. So, and also the judge and the jury are also forming opinions from when you walk into court. They're watching you. Are you paying attention in court? Are you sleeping? Are you taking notes? Are you mean mugging people? Are you looking mean towards people? Are you looking friendly? Are you looking like a nice, agreeable person? They look at that. When the court starts and it stops, do you stand up and show respect for the court? Or do you just slouch over in your chair like you don't care and you have no interest in any type of respect for the jurors or for the judge? Everyone is watching. One of the things that came out in this case is Blac Chyna said she did bad on the witness stand, meaning that when she got up to testify, she got shook. She said when she was presented with nude pictures of herself, because she said Rob Kardashian posted nude pictures of her, and she saw that in the middle of the court, it threw her completely off. And again, as I said at the beginning, anyone can be hit with stage fright. So it threw her off, and she couldn't answer the way that she had planned on answering. And so what did she want? She wanted to redo her testimony. Well, the judge said, no, that's not happening. So when you go to court and you're presenting your case, your attorney's going to call maybe you or other people as your witnesses on what's called direct examination. They're going to directly ask you questions to prove your case. However, the issue comes about on cross-examination. Cross-examination is when the other side gets the opportunity to ask you questions to kind of cross you up, to kind of bring, to make the facts that you were trying to lay out there less believable, less credible. Figure out it, try to make it look like maybe you were lying, or maybe you really don't remember, or maybe your evidence isn't as good as you think it was. So you have to go through cross-examination. So regardless of what your case is, you have to be prepared for people to ask you questions, maybe 5 different ways, asking you the same question to make you look bad. And then if you think about it, you're bringing a case and you brought it up years ago. You filed this case years ago, and now years later, you're on the stand trying to remember specific details. Well, 3 years ago, you said this. Do you remember this or not? Or maybe you were lying about that. So it can get very nerve-wracking. And that's why oftentimes people mess up on the stand and they don't do as well as they plan to. So this is one thing that can happen. And you're trying to convince a jury or trying to convince a judge that does not know you, that can greatly diminish you winning your case. What's another thing? Unable to convince a judge or jury of your claims. You're bringing claims. You're saying someone did something to you, and that's why you filed a complaint, because you're complaining. Well, you have to convince people. You convince people through your oral testimony when you're speaking, and through your evidence in the form of paperwork, contracts, text messages, social media, DMs. A lot of times nowadays, people are conducting business using text messages and direct messages. Well, you have to make sure that those messages adequately describe the ins and outs of what your case was about or what you're trying to prove, because if they don't, you're going to have a problem. For example, in this case, Blac Chyna was able to show the jury in the court messages where the Kardashians were saying they might not continue their show if her show continues. So the case was about, if you don't know, she lost her TV show that she had where she was making over $92,000 an episode, and she felt it was because the Kardashians influenced the television studio to drop her show. And what she was showing was text messages that they had sent where they said, well, they might not be so comfortable continuing their show if her show is allowed to continue, because her position was they didn't want her show to stay on there. However, despite her being able to show these text messages to the court, the jury still said, well, we don't feel that there was any substantial effect on her contract or the fact that her show ended early. So that wasn't enough evidence. There was no direct evidence that she could show that linked that because they said cancel the show got canceled. Yes, it looks persuasive. Yes, it looks convincing, but did it rise to the level to meet that burden of proof to show that she proved that claim? And unfortunately for her, the court said no. In addition, another way of something that you can do that can hurt your case is if you don't appear to be a sympathetic person to the judge or the jury. Again, people are looking at you. Despite people's robes, despite people's appearance, everyone has emotions and they're looking to see. Rob Kardashian, when he testified, he said that Blac Chyna held a gun to his head, hit him with a metal pole, strangled him, and used cocaine and alcohol. And this was in his attempt to diminish her appearance before the jury in the court. Well, when Blac Chyna was asked about that, she said she was just being silly. And when she held a gun to his head, it was a joke. It's very hard. If I'm your attorney and someone presents something saying that you held a gun to their head, you hit them with a metal pole, and you strangled them, and you were on cocaine and alcohol to defend you. What can I say? And your answer is, I was just being silly about the matter, and it was a joke. Well, when you have such serious claims, such as in this case where you're suing for $100 million, I don't know if people are going to take that to be just silly and a joke. In addition, when you have other things where maybe online or on social media, you might not have always acted in a nice manner. You might have really acted a fool on certain occasions. And then you combine that. It's one thing to say, oh, I just do that for TV. But then when you actually have evidence of you doing something in general, it's a big problem. Yeah. And one of our comments here from Corey made a great point. He's saying the public views her as being erratic and her mother doesn't help her case exactly. Her mother does not help her case at all. And we're going to talk about that. Exactly. And Corey also says her mother should have never been there as well, showing out. Her mother did come to court and show out. And we're going to talk about how that turned out for her as well. Matter of fact, let's go to that right now. Family members, you're going to court. We know how passionate you are about things at stake. However, you have to talk to your friends and family members and ask them not to make any public statements about the case. That's not going to help you. You're in court to get justice in the court, not in the media. If you just wanted to litigate the matter and argue the matter on social media through text messages, through DMs, then keep it there. But when you have a substantial amount of money at stake, spending hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars on attorneys, spending money on court costs, going over 4 or 5 years, you need everything to be lined up in your favor and to put on the most professional appearance as possible, especially if you're suing for millions and millions of dollars. So in this situation, Blac Chyna's mother was seen online cursing and talking about the case on Instagram. So what happened? She did that on the first day of court, of trial. And what happened on the second day? She was banned. The judge banned her from being able to appear in the courtroom anymore because of that. So don't you think the jurors notice that on the one day you're here with your mom and other people, and on the next day you don't, and then the other following days you don't see her anymore? People notice that. They notice who is your support staff, who is your support team while you're going through the trial. And when something looks off, or especially something like that gets into the media, now what? How do you think that hurts or helps your case? In addition, another thing that can hurt your case is if you play dumb when you're being questioned. If you get on the stand and all of a sudden, after your attorney asks you questions that were all favorable to you, questions that are real easy questions that make you look good, you did great. But then when questions are asked by the other side, even basic questions, and you don't know anything, you're current. And so now what? For example, let's say you're in court and they show an email and they say, hey, Mr. Smith, we have an email here. It appears you wrote my client an email about this contract or about this case or whatever, this situation before we got to court a while ago. Is this your email? Oh, I don't know. And he replies, I don't know. I don't know if that's really my email address. Maybe somebody photoshopped my name on here. Basic things that are indisputable, that we know are the truth. That makes you look bad in front of the judge and the jury. They start looking at you like, hey, you're not going to tell the truth. You're going to lie or do whatever you think you need to do to make this case come out the way you want it to come out. So things like that are problems. Now, I wanted to go over some other things that also reflect on you not looking sympathetic to the jury. When you go to court, you need to dress respectable. You have to dress and look the part of a professional to best represent your business. If you say, for example, you're a poor person, and you're looking for money and you were greatly damaged and injured because of something, and then you come to court with Gucci on, or you come to court with all kind of high expensive fashion clothing, you don't really appear to be a poor person that is really suffering because of what has happened. If you say that, you're fine. I mean, if you come to court with a neck brace on and a cane and you say how sick you are, but then the other side is able to go on Facebook and Instagram and see your story and see videos of you where you were just on vacation in Hawaii, or just see you skiing, or see you at the beach hanging out, running around, that makes you look horrible as a witness. That diminishes, and there's nothing that any attorney can do to get around that, because you're putting yourself in these bad situations. So with respect to your business, if you have a situation and you're saying that certain things occurred with someone you were doing business with and it hurts you, you can't do things that look contrary to that. So what can you do to not only have a good case, but also present yourself well? First of all, it takes a while. Just remember that it takes a while to go to court. So take notes on what exactly happened. Have a timeline of events that you can always reference. If you find out stuff as you're going through the process with your attorney that's important, keep a log of it. There's a question here. Do you recommend putting a freeze on social media accounts if you go through a case like this? Let's see here. If you go through a case like this. Yeah, oftentimes it is advisable for clients, if you have certain cases that are highly contested, highly in the news, to stop posting on social media. And the question is, can they pull it up? Yes, they can oftentimes get those records off of social media and use that. However, it is advisable once your case begins not to post about the case, not to make comments on the case, to stop and not to engage in any conversation, even with text messages or direct messages with friends, because you never know if a friend that you had from years ago, there might be a falling out and you don't want that information to be discoverable. So yes, it's most advisable to stay off social media in your case and not discuss the case with anyone but your attorney. In addition, besides writing down a timeline of the events going on in the case, it's also best to prepare as much as possible before you go to court. You have to be prepared. What does that mean? That means reviewing your deposition if you were deposed. That means reviewing any documents that you produced or evidence that you gave to the other side. Because it's easy for them to say, okay, well, you provided us this contract from 2019, another one from 2020. And then when they get you on the stand and ask you questions, they want to ask you about contracts, emails, and other things that you provided. And it's only fair. You should know the documents and the information that you provide. And you should know it back and forth so no one can't trip you up on any information that you provide. In addition, when you're in court, you have to listen carefully. Listen to the question that you're being asked. So many times, witnesses get on the stand, and even though the other side is asking them questions, they will volunteer information that's not even being asked. They will give out stuff that the other side had no idea existed, and it's things that could be detrimental to the case. So listen carefully, not only to your attorney, but to the questions that are being asked, and don't volunteer unnecessary information. In addition, you cannot get defensive when you're being asked questions in court. If you start showing that you have an attitude with the other attorney, oftentimes that's what they want you to do. They want to get you rattled. They want to get you upset. They want to ask you things that have nothing to do with this case just to bother you. And they can get you, and by bothering you, they can get you off of your game plan, make you forget what you were going to say, make you forget your information, get you emotional, make you react, and not think carefully about what you're going to say and accomplish their goal. So don't get emotional. Even if they keep asking you the same questions, it's not your job to defend yourself. It's your attorney's job to object and defend yourself as you're going through the process. So don't let the other attorney rattle you. Also, if you are asked a question, you're on the stand, you're asked a question and you can't think for a moment. Take your time and just be quiet. Just pause, catch your composure. You can always ask that the question be repeated to you. Or if you don't remember, the easiest response is, I don't recall. As opposed to making up something, trying to put together something, guessing, things of that nature. But you want to be careful. You don't have to say anything if you don't know for certain. We talked about dressing appropriately. We talked about text messages. And also when you're in court, regardless of how much money is at stake, regardless of how much someone took from you or defrauded you or they broke the contract, do not stare at the other side. Jurors and the judge are observing you the entire time. They're watching everybody. They have a different viewpoint than what you think. So if you're staring at them, if you're arguing with them in the hallway, you never know. If you're walking down the hall and jurors are watching you or listening to you and you getting in arguments or you're mean mugging them and staring at them, it reflects poorly on you. And the jurors remember these things and they take notes about this stuff. And when they're in that jury room, they're voting and touchy situations come up and they have to give one side the benefit of the doubt because they maybe heard evidence and they're not sure which way they're convinced. Then they start thinking about, well, what have I seen since I've been here? Well, I saw this guy staring real mean at the other person. I saw this guy or this lady on the stand. And when they were on the stand, they talked real smart to the attorney. They had a bad attitude. They looked mean at the judge. They raised their voice. They did all of these things. All of those things can come back to bite you and hurt your case. So you don't want to do those things. You want to maintain your composure. You want to stay off social media. You want to show up to court on time for your case. You cannot show up late. Showing up on time shows that you respect the court's time, you're interested, and you really are serious about winning the case. So these are things that you can do, and we can learn from some of those mistakes. So some of the mistakes, unfortunately, that we saw in the Blac Chyna case was, unfortunately, she froze on the stand and wanted to redo it. That wasn't going to happen. She didn't have the adequate evidence to prove the case for certain claims that she made. In addition, she didn't look sympathetic to the jury when she's not denying that she pulled a gun on someone, and she's not denying that she hit someone with a metal pole, strangled him, but says she was just being silly in a joke. And now we see that the joke was on her with respect to those claims. In addition, and in her case, it did not help that her mother is cursing and acting very unprofessional in this case when they're looking at, hey, well, your mother is with you, so definitely she's a reflection of your case. And if she's not acting proper, then most likely that's how you act because that's who you hang with. So these are important tips that I wanted to share when we talk about ways to lose your case and ways to help win your case. And most importantly, you have to have an attorney that you believe in, that you're working with, and that you have confidence in because you guys are a team. It's an adversarial process, but that attorney is not supposed to be your adversary. That attorney is supposed to be someone that's on your side. And what that means is you, at a certain point, have to be willing to follow your attorney's lead. If the attorney says, this is how we're going to do it, this is our strategy, You have to get on board with that to make it happen. Because if you're not, it's going to cause problems and the attorney can't solve those type of things. In addition, you have to realize that in court, all types of unpredictable things can come up. New witnesses might emerge at the last minute, new evidence might emerge to contradict some of your testimony. So you have to be flexible and be willing to find ways to adapt and address those things. But like always, I appreciate everyone for tuning in. I appreciate you for taking the time to spend this time with me. Apologize that we got started a little late for the technical difficulty, but we'll address that in the future. And again, I advise you to always maintain your subscription to this channel. Hit the like button, hit the notification bell, and share this video with anyone that you feel could help them so that they can be successful. This is Attorney Don Dennis. Thanks again for your time. Have a great evening.